Today's the 27th day of Tammuz, the 2nd of August. And we're in chapter 12. Chapter 12 and chapter 13 are... Chapter 12 is long, chapter 13 is not so long. But they basically want to say one thing, and I'll say what they say before, so that hopefully we can keep our focus. I don't even know if I want to explain, if I want to even translate all of 12, because it's very tedious. It's very tedious, and if you're not steeped in the questions that he raises and the answers he gives, it doesn't advance you so much. So let me say in short what he's going to say. The question we asked is, why is there the name of 42 in the first parsha, which should be a parsha of chesed, of loving kindness, and name 42 is a vessel of, as we'll say, it's a vessel of din, of might, gvura. And the second paragraph of Shema, it's the opposite. We have a vessel of 72 letters, a number of letters like sorry, he's going to say it's the light. Sorry. He's going to raise this whole issue. So he's going to say it's the light, is the light of gvura, and the number of letters seems to be, sorry, the number of letters is the light, that's the gvura, and it seems to be that, I said it completely wrong. From the beginning, take it from the beginning. The first parsha is talking about chesed, but it has 42 letters. So it would seem that somehow this is might. And the second parsha has 72 words, and it seems to be talking about din. So we have 72 as chesed, and the parsha itself seems to be talking about din. So why is this? So his answer is, it's a phenomenon called achlifu duchtayu, trading places. Literally what it means. Trading places. If you ever saw the movie with Eddie Murphy and Tom Aykroyd, whatever his name was, Dan Aykroyd. So that's what it is. It's trading places. Now, in that movie, it was like an experiment between these two billionaires. And what's more important, nature or nurture? In any case. And then they win against the guys who set them up. That was the big finale at the end. But the Torah was given to the world to make peace. So this is an issue that the Torah is very, very interested in. Anything that has to do with two things that are opposite, being able to make peace between them, is a very big concern in the Torah. And altogether, you find in Kabbalah, in general, 3 different ways in which things make peace. Okay? There's a lot of discussion about this in Chassidus. Kabbalah sort of gave the preliminary points, but it's Chassidus that makes a big deal out of this. Now, the one that we know the most is achlifu duchtayu. It's actually the one that's most famous. In the Zohar, its sources in Avram and Yitzchak at the Akedah. They say that there they traded places. That's the source of this phrase, achlifu duchtayu. They traded places. Why? Because Avram, who was a man of loving kindness, had to act with might to bind Isaac. And Isaac, who was a man of might, who should have resisted, gives out his neck to be sacrificed. And so he's acting with loving kindness towards his father and towards Hashem and accepting everything. So
you think you don't go with your nature.
What?
You do something with seichel.
Right.
You go against nature.
You can go against your nature.
Because you think what you're doing.
Right.
This is what Avram did, what he's supposed to do, and Yitzchak did
right.
what he's supposed to do.
Except that what we say here is that it's not so simple that it's just that they thought, it's the connection between them. Meaning that Avram did this because he loved Yitzchak, and Yitzchak did this because he loved Avram. They had a connection, and that's what caused it. But the truth is, like you're saying, that when you analyze the Zohar a little bit more deeply, right? So the Zohar says, and this is most of chapter 12, to explain that the reason why there can be a chlifu duchtayu, that it can be trading places, is because we are both seeing a higher revelation than either of us. And we're nullified to that revelation. Meaning we're being...
synergy? Where they're both seeing...
It's not synergy. They're trading places. Synergy is something else entirely.
They're both seeing more than...
A higher revelation than either of them.
That's a synergy.
No. They're seeing
It's like
Hashem. They're seeing Hashem at some level. Hashem is commanding them to do something, and they're both nullifying themselves to that command.
Okay.
It's not a synergy. Synergies are acting together. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, he's
Right.
doing with seichel. Like,
It's more than seichel. It's nullification. Seichel, bitul. It's bitul. It's part of the seichel. You're right, but we usually when we say seichel, we think about bina. Right.
So you're saying that there's two nullifications in one moment.
Right, they're both being nullified to the same
At
thing.
the same thing. Okay.
The way this is usually described is that Hashem makes peace above. Where did we see another example of something like this? That when he brought the hail on the Egyptians, it was on the one hand ice, and the other hand it contained fire. But there it's not trading places. There it's just that they're both nullified. The minister of water and the minister of fire are both nullified to Hashem's command. So there it's synergy, because they're doing something together, mamish together. But it's on it's based on the same idea. Okay? So this is one way in which things that are opposite come together. So they don't really come together, the mamish trade places, which is a very big deal. What would this be like in a marriage? That a husband and wife can take on each other's roles. That your wife was with a broken ankle, so you did all the housework. And it could be that you can't work, so she goes out to work.
I can't do electrical. I can't. She's the handyman. You know?
No, so if she does it all the time, that's one thing. But here we're trading because...
Oh, I see. Because
we need to, because we're nullified to a higher ideal.
I understand.
So that's basically what he's going to explain in chapter 12. Except he's going to give a long explanation that what is this higher ideal? What is this higher thing that they're both nullified to? He's not going to say the words nullified to. You're supposed to understand it from the context. But let's see.
Doesn't mean he changed his place with the other place.
Exactly that.
Exactly this is
Yeah.
why you don't write out Varium Shemoyah first, but after.
No. Okay. So like this. So there's light and a vessel. There's the revelation and the vessel. So here what happens is the light of Chesed went into the vessel of Gvura, and the light of Gvura went into the vessel of Chesed. So you have light in a vessel. That's why the trading is between the lights. The lights went from one place to the other.
Gvura to be Chesed is not a regular Chesed.
No, that's something else.
This is a person.
That's something
doing
else.
something
So what you're saying now is called itkalelut. That's another level of making peace between things. It's what we call inter-inclusion, iskalalus. And what we mean by that is that if you're mature, you can find the other inside you. But the way he's going to appear in you is different than the way he is there. But when you say trading places, you become him and he becomes you. It's really trading completely my mindset for your mindset, completely. But why do we call it trading place nothing? Because you don't trade the bodies. The bodies remain the same. The vessels remain the same. Except that I'm now going to act the way you act, and you're going to act exactly like I act. Not just that it's going to be different. When you say different, that's like when we say chesed sheba gvura, or gvura sheba chesed. That's iskalulus. That is inter-inclusion. That's another form. There's a third form of making peace in this world, and that's called carrying opposites. Nesiat hafachim. Nesiat hafachim. Carrying opposites. The two opposites are in the same vessel entirely. meaning that I can contain both love for something and hate for something at the same time. Is that possible? What?
Both of them in the same.
Yeah, in the same place. And that is a higher level altogether.
And if we can make peace there, is
That's Pinchas.
That's the high. That's the high. Okay. Yeah.
He did it, but he had both, right? For sure.
Okay. So let's just read a little bit inside. Yeah. What person?
So peace.
Okay, good. That's what I'm saying. These are three forms of making peace. They're discussed extensively in Chassidus, all three of these. And each one has, the highest one is always Nesias Safachim. So you have two things, two opposites in one vessel. Here we're talking about the lights trading between the vessels, and there is also something called Iskalulus, which is the lowest form of making peace, which is that I can find you inside me. And that's called inter-inclusion. That I have it's the lowest, because it doesn't require something higher to be revealed. Here, something higher has to be revealed. And that's what he's going to claim. Because the question was, how do they do this? So he's going to say, because we just revealed the light of the infinite before the contraction. And when that reveals, they can trade places. That's the short answer to his question that we asked yesterday. Let's look inside, because there's a few things that are worthwhile to read. Again, I would skip it all, because it's very tedious. It's not fun to translate either, and it's going to get into a lot of questions of the difference between something from nothing, meaning being from nothing, and between what we call ishtalshelus, which means ilah ve'alul, cause and effect. There's two ways in which things come into the world. There's cause and effect, and there is something from nothing. Obviously, something from nothing is a bigger trick than cause and effect. Cause and effect is the Greek system. It's you have a first mover, first cause, and it causes everything to happen afterwards. It's called Seder Ishtalshelus. When you talk about Yesh Me'ayin, something coming out of nothing, then that's like the biggest trick. That's like only Hashem can do that, something out of nothing. In the middle, there's a mimer from the Rebbe Rashab. He gives 7 different levels, from Ilah Ve'alul, all the way to Yesh Me'ayin. He has altogether 7 different levels, a whole continuum, a whole spectrum of different relationships like this. In any case, without getting into this now, so he says, we heard from the Alter Rebbe that the reason, the way that these things are, that the Shem Mem Bet is related to V'ahavta, and the Shem Ayin Bet is related to V'aya, is because of this thing, trading places. Achlifu duchtayu. It's called Or HaChesed, the light of Chesed, B'kli HaGvura, right? The first parsha is Chesed, and it's inside the vessel of Gvura. Or Gvura, the light of the might, in the vessel of Chesed. כמו שכתוב בזוהר ובעץ חיים. והנה בפרשת שמע, האור הוא מבחינת גבורה. Now, we said that here, the light, meaning, that's what it sounds like. The light is the might, because there's 42 words. So now he's saying that the 42 is the light, not the vessel. ולכן השם הוא מ"ב, שהשם הוא בחינת האור, because light is, names are light. Okay? Names and light are almost synonymous. Almost. Not quite, but almost. Because remember, what did we say in chapter 10? That we call the Sfirot by certain names, we're referring to the light inside of them. We're not referring to the vessel itself. Or, in other words, we're not saying that the light is different. We're saying that when the light comes into this vessel, it's tinted by the color of the vessel. Not that the light itself has a different... He was very clear about this. Because all the light is the same, because it's all the light of the infinite. So it's not really different, but it's tinted because of the vessel, because of this glass cup that has a certain color to it. כנ"ל באותיות הקודמות באריכות, as we explained, ואומנם הכלי הוא חסד, ומשום הכי נזכר בו ואהבת, שהאהבה היא בחינת חסד. The vessel here is the topic. So this is a very interesting thing. This is not the way you would normally think. What we're talking about is the vessel, meaning the content of the paragraph, that he's talking about you should love Hashem your God and so on, that's the vessel. Exactly. That's the vessel, according to what he's saying. But the light is the number of words. It's not the way you would think about this. You would think the opposite. That the number of words is technical. It's just a technical thing. There's 42 words, so what? That doesn't mean anything. But here he says it's the opposite. Well, we don't have time to really get into all the different explanations of why this is, but he'll say something in a moment. Uvayayim Shama, in the second paragraph, Oru Chesed, the light is Chesed, loving kindness, because there's 72 words. V'lachen Hashem Wayin Bet, V'akli Ubchinat Gvura. And the vessel, the topic is Gvura, is might. What happens when you don't do what Hashem tells you to do, and Hashem will stop your rain, and so on. Now he says, he gives a very important bibliographic note, because it's a Tzemach Tzedek, he was there. ואל יקשה המעיין ממה שכתוב בסידור להיפוך לשמה הוא אור החסד בכלי הגבורה. He says, but in the Siddur, there are other Maimarim that we also heard from the Alter Rebbe, and now he's going to tell us when this other Maimar was heard. The Siddur from the Alter Rebbe, which is not really from the Alter Rebbe, the Siddur is, but the Maimarim are from him that were written by his son, the Midler Rebbe. And we know that there's a difference between the Midler Rebbe and the Tzemach Tzedek. Each one stressed a different side of the Alter Rebbe, so in a certain sense they're both his children, even though the Tzemach Tzedek was his grandson. But they both grew up with him. And there it says the opposite, that Shema hu or chesed b'kli hagvura. There he says that the light here is the topic. What are we talking about? Loving Hashem. So it's the light is chesed. And the 42 is the number of words. So that's the kli. That makes more sense, no? It's easier to understand. Because the number of words is just a vessel. It's a technical thing.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
And the opposite for vaya. Really, you can say it both ways. Now this, whenever somebody hears this in the Chassidus, they lose it. Usually, so you can say anything you want. You can say anything you want. But the truth is, when you're talking about a chlifu duchtayu, you better be able to say whatever you want, because they're trading places. You can't always say whatever you want. If you want to say whatever you want, to make peace between two different opinions, this whole thing is very difficult for people to understand. A person who doesn't... This is why they used to say, and still say probably, that non-Jews have a real problem understanding Talmud. A real problem. Why? Because in the non-Jewish frame of mind, the point of an argument is for somebody to be right and somebody to be wrong.
You can't be both right.
You can't both be right. But the Talmud is all about both being right. Why? The answer is very simple, because Hashem is infinite, and every word of the Torah is infinite. So of course you can show this side and that side. Now somebody can come and say, so what do I do in the end? That's a different question. That's a halachic question.
Yes.
Halacha is about determining what do you do, not what's right. What do you actually do? Not telling you the other side is not right.
It's what you do.
And when you say do the right thing, that doesn't apply to halacha. Halacha is talking about what is the thing to do, not the right thing to do. Meaning, you have to have some consistency. You can't switch from point of view to point of view all the time. So if you go through one point of view, this is how you see things. So that's how halacha is based according to Kabbalah and Chassidus. That you have one side that sees the loving kindness in every opinion, or in every issue, they see the loving kindness. That's Beis Hillel, and then you have Beis Shammai that sees the
Everybody has his nature.
right. And it depends on your nature. The point of having a posek is not to deviate from the same point of view. You have to be a certain way. Right, exactly. So there has to be consistency, but it doesn't mean that the other side isn't right. They're just consistent in a different point of view. Now, this is very hard for someone whose whole existence is not to make peace in the world. It's very hard for them to see this. And today the world's getting closer to this, but they still don't get this part. In the end, they say this is what you call doublespeak. That's what they call it in the end. They can't handle this.
Yeah.
What is this? What are you talking about? No. What I do is right, and what you do is right. As long as you're consistent. You have to be consistent. So we have a few sugyos a few topics where that really comes up. For instance, when to daven Ma'ariv, right? When can you daven Ma'ariv? When can you daven Mincha? Those two things are dependent on a machlokas in brachos. They're dependent on the dispute in Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim. If you follow Rabbi Yehuda, you have to be consistent all week long. You can't daven Mincha after sunset. If you follow Rabbi Yehuda. But if you don't follow Rabbi Yehuda, you can daven Ma'ariv before sunset. Let's not get into it. Good.
I remember when the Medina cut funding some years ago, real quick and hard. And I went to a Rav and I said, Adis was right, the Buddha was wrong. He said, no. He said, Das Torah is not an accounting job.
Right.
You go back. He said, both were right at that point.
And this point,
and then it
this
might
one's
be different.
easier and this one's more difficult.
That's right. Or it could change at that point, but it doesn't go.
Right.
It doesn't retroactively. Remember those big Kiddush things.
Okay, so it's not to say that there are not wrong opinions. There are wrong opinions. Some you can yot megale panim shelo k'halacha. There's all kinds of things that can be wrong, but that's something entirely different. There we right. We have
We're talking about straight person.
right.
Yeah.
No, even a straight person can make a mistake.
Mistake, yes.
Okay. So there's wrong opinions. Right. So for that we have peer review. That's why we have so many chachamim that see that you're consistent.
If you look at the